All right. How we doing? Welcome to Why Invest Wednesday. We are in our 20th episode of the year. So that's super cool. We'll keep this thing going. Today, just want to talk to you a little bit about know when to hold them, know when to fold them. And we got all kinds of stuff going on with the real estate market that is crazy. Last week I told you I got an FHA buyer under contract. That was super awesome. This week, just had a experience. I have a client who is out of the country, and I'm showing them houses via video. And there was just some things, and being the only one in the house before the offer and things like that, there's some pressure. But we just do a good job of showing everybody what's going on and doing that. But it's been interesting. And there's a house, super great location this weekend. We talked about it. We put our best foot forward. We got outbid. We raised our offer, got outbid, raised our offer. At some point, I just said, hey guys, that house is not worth that amount of money. And so we didn't continue to increase. So there does come a time and point, and absolutely buying in this market it's not for the faint of heart. I'm a super competitor, as you guys know. Sports in my background, coach, played when I was younger, things like that. So I'm competitive, but in this market, you have to there's a fine line of that competitiveness versus, okay, like that's out of this world, and we're not going to do that for this house. So, I still do all the things. I send the comparables. I talk to my client, and this is really the most important thing about buying in this market is obviously we are escalating the prices very quickly. At some point, that should slow down a little bit because money is not infinite. It is a finite commodity. And at that point, we're going to start to see people really freak out and have second thoughts about how much they should have paid for their home. Now, with all that said, I'm very in tune with my clients, and I'm like, okay, if this is a 2 to 5 year investment, we need to be a little more careful. If this is your forever home, who cares what it's worth, how long it takes to gain that equity? And, obviously it matters, and we don't want to be upside down and things like that, but we also have to be realistic. And this is what it's going to take to win the bid. This is kind of what it's going to look like if we do have to, fit this appraisal gap and things like that. And so first of all, we have to be ready to act on what we put in the offer. We have to understand what an appraisal gap is, understand that we're going to be paying more for the property, contractually obligated to pay more for the property than the appraiser says, to a certain extent, or sometimes all the way up. And so with that said, we have to take a holistic view of what's going on. And if we're going to be in this house for 10 years, the market may do this 3 or 4 times while we do this. So as we move along, we just want to make sure that we have the full vision in place. And, some people won't do appraisal gaps. Some people use them, frivolously. And I just want my clients to know the education and what's going on, and so that we can make that decision. And yeah, it's a risk. We're paying more than the appraised value. But let's talk about the appraised value. The appraised value is one person's opinion of the value. Does that mean that house is absolutely worth that amount of money? No, the house is worth what the seller's willing to sell and the buyer's willing to buy for. So there's that fine line, but we do have to go through these hoops when we're dealing with a lender and all that stuff going on. So with that said, people ask me all the time, well, like, are you just throwing offers all crazy? And every time we do an offer, I send comparables. I say, okay, this is what I think it can appraise for. This house is not worth that much money, but with this said, with the price of appreciation and things like that, we're okay, as long as you understand that if you go to sell that house in the next 5 years, under 5 years, we're going to be tough we may not be, and hopefully we're not, as appreciation continues to go. Hopefully it slows down a little bit just for the buyers out there. But if we buy the house for this. We're not going to be able to get your money out of it for sure. Hopefully we don't have any crashes or anything like that, but I can't predict that. It doesn't appear that we are in a bubble of any sort due to the demand. But that is something that we just need to talk through and make sure that if you are out there across the country, inventory is an issue. So these bidding wars are happening all over the place. Make sure that you as the consumer are understanding what you are putting in the contract. An appraisal gap is saying that you are willing to pay more than the appraiser thinks the home is worth in the event the appraisal comes in low. If the appraisal comes in $5,000 under contract price, you're bringing $5,000 to the table in cash because the lender's only going to lend on the percentage down, or the contract price minus the percentage down of that. So you have the $5,000 gap to make up. Now, so that's very important when you're putting appraisal gaps in there. And this is why things are coming back on the market. People get cold feet, and it's just a cyclical thing. But make sure you understand what's going on. Make sure you understand that, okay, once I'm in this house and I have to sell it in 5 years, well, if you're buying a $600,000 house, the real estate commissions and the title costs and the fees that are going to be along with that to sell the house is, $50,000 or, in that ballpark, depending on what your realtor's willing to do for you as far as fees and things like that. So understand that it's going to take a little bit of time because now we have to make up that gap in value. And then obviously if we're going to pay the realtors and do a traditional sale, then we're going to have to make that up. So you could be coming out of the, probably 5 years, you sell your house and you're like, okay, well, I have what I put down, and then you have your principal reduction that you've paid off, but you're not going to be walking away with exponentially more money, possibly when you are purchasing a home for hundreds of thousands of dollars over the asking price currently. This particular house was listed at $488, went under contract for over $600,000. And it was a nice house. It was an excellent location right across from a great park, things like that. Great lot, corner lot, blah, blah, blah. But the house itself, the structure itself was not a $600,000 house. And I understand the market's changed and things like that, but I had to be like, okay, guys, this is not, it's not worth that. If my vision of a $600,000 house is something you can move into, kick your feet up, crack a beer, and watch the kids play at the park or whatever, So that's something that obviously is my opinion. I represent my client, so we do what my client wants to do, but absolutely they're educated. And it's important that you are educated or educate your clients. For my realtor friends out there watching, like my dad, he can learn a few things from me, I guess. So anyways, so that's kind of that. You got to just know, and you have to remove the emotion at some point for sure. Buying a house is emotional. Let's look at homes. Let's, see what's out there. And then let's make as educated and risk adverse decisions. Make sure that your risk tolerance is where it needs to be, because that's the thing that matters, is what risk are you willing to take on? Dream home, dream location, going to be there for 30 years. Then, our risk tolerance is a little bit higher because it doesn't matter what the home's worth in 5 years if you're going to live there for 30. Life changes, things happen, but it is a risk if you're betting more than $100,000 over bidding $100,000 over the asking price, because who's to say that the next house is going to do that? Now, that's what's going to happen. This is what I tell my clients all the time. The next house that sells is going to have that. But then what value do they put on, or the next buyer buying the next house in that neighborhood, what value do they putting on the prime lot, the prime location and things like that of the neighborhood? And so maybe that has a little to do with it. And maybe you will get lucky and get out of it, and we will see appreciation. It should slow down a little, I would hope, here in the coming years. But that's just all stuff to factor in, and putting appraisal gaps and over asking price. The honest truth is the asking price is not a price tag by any means. It's not like when you go to the grocery store, you've seen that TikTok where the guy's selling an apple and people are paying $120 for it or whatever. But that's something that just we need to focus on. Make sure you're educated, understand what your risk tolerance is, and understand that in the event things happen poorly, that risk is something that we're going to talk about and say, okay, remember when we talked about, what are we willing to risk here? Because they're all going to be mad at me, even though we've had these conversations. So hopefully no one will be mad at anyone. This is not the market's going downhill anytime soon, but there is a point in time where paying 20% over what the realtor listed the house at. So obviously they think it's, close to that value sometimes. They usually don't. Usually you don't walk into a house and say, I think this is what the house is worth. And a seller says, okay, let's list it for $100,000 less. That's usually not a conversation. In fact, I've never had that conversation with a seller. And I would say, well, I want to list your house for what it's worth. Like, let's talk about this. Let's not give away $100,000. So that's my point, is the list price is not a price tag, but it is usually a mixture of the seller's opinion of the price, the facts and stats that the realtor, put forward, and they pick a price. So that's what they think it could appraise for. And then obviously once it takes off from there, $112,000 plus over asking is a substantial amount of money. And absolutely you could get lucky and every house on the block could sell for, $25,000 more than that. Next thing you know, you have $1 million house and we're good to go. At some point, those smaller neighborhoods, the smaller houses, things like that, are not going to get to $1 million overnight. So we're going to have some sort of here, and then it's going to flatten out. And if it flattens out right after you buy the house, then that's where your risk assessment will come into play. So bottom line is, if you're looking for a 2 to 5 year house, I do not recommend going crazy appraisal gaps, things like that. If it's a hot neighborhood, we can make it make sense, then that's great. So let's move on. I did say betting instead of bidding. So let's talk about some sports. The Avalanche look to be pretty dominant in their opening playoff game. They play tonight at 8:30. Check that out. It's on CNBC. So looking for the pick to click tonight. I'm going to go, I don't know. I think I'm going to go sad. I like that dude. Number 20, look for him to score some goals tonight. Brandon said. And then the Nuggets start on Saturday. A little revenge chance of the Portland Trailblazers. They lost in Game 7 a few years back. I think it's going to be another grinder. The Nuggets do not have very good guard play because all their guards are hurt. They do have the MVP. He better be the MVP or things are bad in Joker. So I don't know, though. Those two guards in Portland may give him fits. So we'll see how that matches up. I'm going Nuggets in 6 in that one, and we'll go from there. So reach out. Any questions? Subscribe on YouTube. Like, comment, do all the things. Love to hear from you guys. Love the engagement. So definitely give me a comment. Give me a like. Give me a thumbs down if you think I'm crazy. And go Avs, go Nuggets, hashtag do all the things. So hope you guys have a great Wednesday. The Salty Sisters took a week off, so they're behind in production. So if you all want to buy something, go to their store, Etsy.com, the Salty Sisters, and give them a ton of give them a ton of orders so that they get super stressed out and go crazy. And I'll just go to the liquor store and get them some wine, because that's what they need for high production and high productive actions. So talk to you guys soon. Go Avs tonight. Look for Brandon Saad, score at least one goal, maybe throw in an assist. I'm all about it. Give me your pick to click below, and we'll go from there. Talk to you guys soon. Later.